Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. Soccer Down Here. Jon here, Jarrett there, you there as well. And let me go over the traffic for the week. And it's pretty normal. I mean, we do have a midweek whip around on Wednesday. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner rather than later. Hopefully, possibly, probably, maybe. Morning, Bam. That is a Jarrett question when it comes to the Ashes. Morning, Ricky. Pretty much normal all the way through. Midweek whip around is on Wednesday.
The Ashes is really good. We can go over this real quick after you finish.
Yeah, that'll be opening kickoff. All right, so Thursday is normal. Friday, the show will be from New Jersey. And it's because we are, Joe, Jason, myself, and Mike are all heading up to the Red Bulls match for various and sundry reasons. The Unified team is playing Red Bulls before Red Bulls and Atlanta United, so I'm heading up for that. And so Friday will be from the Jersey side of activity, and we'll get you ready for a big weekend there. But the show will be emanating from a hotel room in New Jersey, from an as of yet to be determined location. So busy week on a bunch of different fronts, but we'll catch up on a lot of folks. But obviously, we'll talk about USMNT. We'll talk about Major League Soccer. We've got news that is breaking this morning. We've got coaches that are being signed, coaches that are being sacked, signings all over the place. But opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's the QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. And what that means is that if you were to partake in coffee, if you're a coffee type of person, and you go to Kickoff Coffee, use the code SoccerDownHere15, you get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% and reinvest it into the youth game and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, Jarrett, the Ashes, and this is not something that, you know, where we're talking about the Touch of Grey song from the Grateful Dead. This does not have anything to do with having set something on fire, although, you know, if you were to watch this particular tournament, some folks may be. But Bam and Jarrett have been getting into cricket, understandably so. And the Ashes are like one of the heavyweight tournaments that you can get into. So please explain how good the Ashes are.
And so the Ashes is it's a test between England and Australia, and it's generally very competitive. It's very chaotic. Cricket's weird if you don't know, but once you get a better grip on it, it's really fun. And I've come to like Test cricket. Not quite as much as I like T20 or ODI. One day international is like a 50 over ODI.
Right.
But there's a lot of strategy into it, and it's fun. Because England declared for, God, I think it was like 350 or 380 after their first innings. They didn't use all their batters. They basically scored a bunch and went, "Yeah, we're good." Then Australia came up, I think, 20 runs short in their innings, but you're playing multiple innings, and you think about it like an aggregate.
Okay.
So I do know, I do, and I follow more English outlets than Australian outlets, and I just know a lot of people have been critical of the way England declared, because I think they ended up with 20 runs worth of a lead after the first, after the first test, and they're not sure that's going to hold up long term, because, yeah, man, like, it's going to be, it's Australia's batsmen are really damn good. And England got a century from Joe Root, which means you've gone for 100 runs before you were, caught out, or you had a wicket taken. And I mean, Australia, I forget who it was for Australia, went off for like 141. It was just freaking absurd.
Now, wasn't there a wicket that happened with a pop up off of the dude's butt and it hit?
Yeah, that was in the first innings when England was batting.
Okay.
That was hilarious because, like, it takes a weird bounce, goes straight up in the air. Everyone is looking around, has no idea where it is, and it just kind of hangs in the air for a second and then just drops right on the wickets. and he's out. It was wonderful. It was really stupid. But yeah, to Bam's point, it's a 5-test series. Test goes for a max of 5 days. Each team bats twice. Every player bats twice. Yeah, uh, Kawaja went off for like 145 or something, and dude like did it slowly too. It wasn't like he did it at like a record pace. They just couldn't get him out, and Australia was just taking their time. They were picking their spots. Like the way England was bowling, Australia wasn't trying to like hit everything for a six or hit everything like home run style, like
Right.
you're used to seeing in T20 style. Like they were, if they were getting shorted, um, they were fine just kind of playing for nothing because at that point you're chasing because this isn't limited over. You're chasing what England has. You don't really have to press. You don't have like you're you. I mean you can kind of take your time and be strategic and wait for something. Yeah, 141 runs off 321 balls faced, which is just absurd. That's a lot of concentration. um,
That's
you're,
like
they're bowling to minimize your scoring, and you're just being selective. You're picking your spots to go. Um,
I mean, that's like hitting more than 3 large buckets of balls. I mean, think
yeah,
about when you go to the
it's a
driving
lot.
range. When you go
It's
to
a
a
lot to
driving
stay
range,
focused on.
yeah, when you go to a driving range and you hit a large bucket of balls and how gassed you are as a normal human being after hitting a full large bucket, Kawaja basically hit 3 large buckets of balls and was out there forever and got it, at 141 out of like 3 large buckets, which is insane. So,
All I know is like my early introduction to this concept was actually in Life, the Universe, and Everything, which is one of the third book in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
right.
um, where after they go to the restaurant at the end of the universe, they get dragged in through a space time wormhole and end up at the Lord's Cricket Grounds, and they steal the ashes.
Of course they do.
They kill a couple people in the process, but so the ashes are fun.
Yes.
It is very strategic, and it has been very enjoyable to watch. So I'll be keeping an eye on that.
Yes.
And it has distracted me from the fact that Brendan Rodgers got rehired at Celtic.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little
So
bit. So, the Ashes is your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff
go
Coffee,
watch the Ashes. Go watch cricket.
kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yeah.
Cricket's fun.
And kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and they in turn take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I don't know if you know this, but there was a tournament that had a semifinal and a final this past handful of days. Final was last night, and one of the teams that got knocked out of the semifinals did not resell their tickets. So the venue that the finals match was played in, between the new rivalry in this region, between the teams with the new rivalry in this region, had a lot of empty seats. But it was U.S. and Canada, and you ended up with Mexico and Panama playing for a third place match. that was that at this rate that probably was on folks' bingo cards. But goals from Birmingham's own Chris Richards and Fuller and Balogun. Tell me you had that on the bingo card. 2-0, and the U.S. was in control fairly early in the CONCACAF Nations League final, and it was dominant. And I know a lot of folks are sitting there and going, and we'll analyze this, as we go this morning, as probably topic number 1 and topic number 2 for a bunch of different reasons. But the U.S. ends up winning CONCACAF Nations League, putting Canada in their place. You saw B.J. Callahan win yet another one. I guess this one is technically still Callahan's, even though you did name a successor. But I think this is probably Callahan's trophy. And the U.S. knocks off Canada by the score of 2-0. So everybody, hey, wow. That's an interesting one. Malaysia Ferris. That's interesting. Okay, so yeah, good morning to you too. But U.S. wins 2-0, Jarrett, and I know a lot of folks have a lot of things to say, so go ahead and lay it all out in the Twitch pitch, everybody. We'll talk about all the topics that are there. But from 30,000 feet, now that we've had time to sit there and ingest a half-filled Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas with the U.S. winning another trophy, what sticks?
Also, Willow, Bam is right. Willow is a way you can watch the Ashes. You can also download the Willow app and watch the Ashes. I should get paid for this. Why the hell am I not getting paid by either government?
For real.
King Charles has got more than enough money sitting around.
Yeah.
With his sausage fingers, he can give me a little bit of money. Jesus. Anyway, speaking of people who still recognize the crown, yeah, Canada not good last night.
Well, I think Will gets the early credit. Dose a syrup.
I mean, yeah, because they weren't good.
No.
Like, they could have been worse. You had one ball clear off the line in the second half. Like, it got chippy late. Like, it did have some hallmarks of, oh man, they're gonna hate each other in CONCACAF for a while. That's fine. This will be fun. But like, when you got away from the fact that, yeah, Canada has a lot of speed outside. Once you got away from that, though, it's kind of like, well, they don't have a Gio Reyna.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has had varying degrees of Gio Reyna over the last 8 months, to a lot of people's different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But what you got from Gio Reyna last night before he went out banged up, you just wanted to get healthy now for the Gold Cup, was a difference maker. Because that was just wild.
Yeah, it was. And the result gave John Herdman the opportunity to sit there and discuss it, and the issues that he feels Canada still has as a nation. U.S. just had 43% possession, completed 103 passes. Canada completed 169. You had Weah, Balogun, and Pulisic, 14 passes combined. Shots and chances all heavily favored the U.S. And that was at one point of the match. So after the match, Herdman says, quote, "You look at the set pieces the U.S. played. Every set piece, we were there by fingernails. The organization, the timing, the variety was so difficult to deal with. You could see the preparation the U.S. have had. Those pieces made a big difference." He then went into Canada's budget crunch. Quote, "You're saying, look, we're going to win this thing with literally 4 days of preparation. 4 days, and those first 3 days are focused on Panama, who are a good team, and then 2 days on the U.S. The U.S. can get the prep right, I think." Herdman's asked, what's it going to take to lift a trophy for this team? Quote, "More preparation, attacking, box defending, and the time dedicated to that type of work in good windows over a 2-year period, which is the country has to help us prepare for a home World Cup." So John Herdman laying down the law after his team loses. I mean, frankly, you saw the U.S. as Alphonso Davies was going down the left-hand side. Joe Scally was not left alone. That was part of the defensive game plan, making sure that Davies was pinned up against the sideline, double-teamed at least, and had nowhere to go. But John Herdman, once again, after the match, decides to sit there and deflect, as head coaches do, about preparation and lack of funds and all these other kinds of things. And I would posit that Canada just has some work to do when it comes to getting prepared in these back-to-backers. And you probably would know that you might be facing the United States in a final if you got through. So I'm the comment about you could see the preparation, and so how is this different? And I'm asking this genuinely. When Herdman says, you're saying, look, we're going to win this thing with literally 4 days of prep, 4 days, and those first 3 days are focused on Panama, and then 2 days on the United States. The U.S. can get the prep right. It sounds to me like Herdman is trying to say that he is lacking resources in a quick turn tournament to analyze stuff that he has right in front of him. I mean, I'm confused by where John Herdman was going, other than calling out the CSA all over again instead of addressing the match itself against the United States.
I mean, yeah, you'll find something to hype your team up with. Just I've watched many a game where I've watched my team lose because of set pieces,
Yes,
and
I'm familiar with this club, Jarrett.
and it's hard. It's when you lose it that way, it's hard to sit there and point to a lot of other stuff, man. It's just can't like it, at the end of the day though. Canada wasn't great enough, you know.
Yeah.
Like yeah, they're in a better spot than Mexico. A lot of places are a better spot than Mexico. Mexico danced through a minefield to get third place because Panama had an overhead kick that was a goal taken off the board. Like Mexico's got Mexico problems. Canada's just needs to worry about Canada because right now Canada's looking like the second best team in CONCACAF.
Yeah.
And I feel like right now that's where they are, and that's okay. Like mostly because the U.S. right now is a damn factory of talent that
Yes.
is just churning out these dudes left and right with a Stars and Stripe badge, who they're just able to throw out there, and they're able to challenge, they're able to tackle it, and be it here, be it in Europe, wherever the hell it might be, these guys are getting minutes with their clubs, and this summer is going to be a big thing for a lot of these guys because you got guys moving. You have Pulisic, God, great to see him go play somewhere where he can actually play for his club.
I know.
You're going to see some of these guys make moves, and it'll be important for their future and for their development that they go somewhere where they are allowed to improve, because it's important for them to still get minutes, because my God, what they are now is really good. What they could be beyond is insane. What you did, I think one of the things that sticks out for me last night is what you did, really keeping Canada at arm's length for most of the game, except for a couple of moments. But you were more clinical in your moments than they were. Is the fact that you did it without Dest or Weston McKennie.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are two guys who you're going to have on the field written in Sharpie for the most part. How you deploy them might change. I don't know. But you didn't have them, and you still got a 2-0 win where it wasn't like you had, batten down the hatches trying to just survive a storm.
I
It
mean,
was yeah, Canada did threaten you a couple times, and you took care of business.
think about the starting lineup that the United States had last night. Arsenal, Lille, Dortmund, Chelsea. And that's just starters. That 4 starters. 4 of your starters in that match against Canada. Arsenal, Lille, Dortmund, Chelsea. Then you've got Leeds, Fulham, Walker Zimmerman being a domestic, Matt Turner being a part of the Arsenal program. Let me run this down. Now it's gonna get to me figuring out. Chris Richards, Crystal Palace. Where's Yunus Musa? Where's Yunus Musa currently playing before I can type the thing in? Valencia. So that's what you're staring at right now with the United States. It's not 85, 90% domestics. Thank you, Niall. Thank you, Will. That's what you're staring at with this lineup now. It's not just domestic league, domestic guy, domestic depth. It is a lot of the guys who are playing in the European theater and coming back to play for their national team. And then you end up with Fuller and Balogun, and it's all about the Cruton, Paul. The lineup and the folks that were there. All of the dual nationals that have now officially been flipped, that have absolutely been flipped and are now a part of what we saw in Nations League. And Niall, I don't think you're too far off. Niall, 2026, Caleb Wiley will be a starter. He's calling it now.
He's doing everything right. Look, I mean, I think you would have had a really good argument if you wanted to go to the table and say that Caleb should have been with the Gold Cup team this year in a couple months.
Yeah.
Or, coming up here soon. Like, I think if you had stood up and said, hey, Caleb should be with them. He should be playing with the Gold, with the crew for the Gold Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got all of these folks, and then you've got Caleb Wiley, and I'm still raising my hand over why Brooks Lennon was not chosen over DeAndre Yedlin for the Gold Cup. I'm just like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. You go right ahead with that one. But you're getting recruits. You're getting the dual nationals flip. I mean, you had Johnny playing last night. You've had Balogun flip, and here in the southeastern United States, what's not a good discussion about football if you ain't talking about flipping, Paul? I mean, you've got to give the men's national team and all of the machinations associated.
I mean, you want give Nathan Harriel a shout over Yedlin if I can.
Yeah.
Up in Philadelphia, like you had multiple young outside backs, and Rich is somewhere like screaming in joy because I'm saying nice things about Philly, but like you had multiple young outside backs who are American who you could have put in here instead of DeAndre Yedlin, and
Yeah.
I don't get it. And yeah, look, I mean Yedlin has been fine, but I would like to see some of these younger guys get those chances as depth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just me.
Yeah. So you gotta take care of real world stuff, and then you're coming back, hopefully.
Yeah, it's the plan.
Okay. All right. Well, then go take care of real world stuff so you can come back. All right. So that's Jared Smith. The full quote from John Herdman that was asked by Doug McIntyre about funding. It's the preparation period. It does cost a lot of money. The preparation period. Okay. It does cost a lot of money to get things put together for these windows. I think it's not a secret. The organization has been suffering financially even through the World Cup qualification. You had coaches raising money to make sure we've got charter flights, security on those charter flights. I mean, that's it. We've got the best generation of players we've had, and there's more coming. You can see it. Ismail Kone just dropped out of the sky. Tejon Buchanan just dropped out of the sky. Alistair Johnson, like it's coming. We've got to figure this out financially. We've got to get serious about winning a World Cup. When you play at home, you get a chance to win it. You get a chance to get to a quarterfinal, a semifinal, and then get on that roll to win it. And we're not serious. We brought a World Cup to our country, and we're not serious about winning it. And you see how close that team is tonight. Tactically, we were there. Chances, shots, we were there. The margins were so tight tonight, so tight. So we've got to get real. We've got to get real and quick because these players, they deserve it. They deserve a shot. The country deserves it. All the people that work to bring it deserve a shot. Let's get after it. We're close. Last night they weren't. But I understand where John Herdman is coming from. I mean, we've talked about on Backpage and In Depth everything that's gone on with the women's national team and how they have been treated up north and how things truly do need to change. But there's a lot of work tactically that has to be done when it's just as simple as double teaming your number one player and not having any depth around or anyone else there to help out. It was difficult last night for Canada to try and function offensively. Could have been a lot worse than 2-0. Probably should have been a lot worse than 2-0. But that's what Canada is staring at. I mean, and we talk about Mexico. Mexico's in a world of hurt. Mexico is in a world of hurt. And you have a team in the U.S., the U.S. National team, not afraid to play kids, not afraid to play kids at all. So, of course, I want to sit there and I want to try to get something squared away, and it's not giving it to me. So, get my numbers here with the U.S. So, all right. So here we go. Here's your ages. I'm going to go with just folks 25 and under. Chris Richards is 23. Austin Trusty, who played last night, 24. Miles is 26. Jedi Robinson, 25. Joe Scally's 20. Dest is 22. Johnny's 21. Weston McKinney's 24. Eunice Moose is 20. Luca De La Torre's 25. Alan Senora, another flip, 24. Brendan Aronson, 22. Gio Reyna, 20. Christian Pulisic, 24. Timothy Weah, 23. Alex Zendejas, another flip, 25. Fuller and Balogun, 21. Ricardo Pepi, 20. So, with that, all right, with that in there, let's get the ages of the Canadian national team. Thank you, Transfermarkt, for not letting me do what I want to do here quickly. But Mexico, sorry. The Mexico ages, not Canada. So the Mexico detailed squad, from once again our friends at Transfermarkt. Memo Ochoa is 37. Cesar Montes, 26. Jesus Gallardo, 28. Jorge Sanchez, 25. Julian Araujo was not in this particular camp. He's not eligible until June 30th, but he's 21. Edson Alvarez, 25. Luis Chavez, 27. Luis Romo, 28. Orbelin Pineda, 27. Sebastian Cordova, 26. Alexis Vega, 25. Uriel Antuna, 25. Henry Martin, 30. And what we've seen is that Mexico doesn't want to play younger players. I mean, once again, let's look at that lineup. Under the age of 25, and this is the full deep, this is the full roster. Under the age of 25 right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, 2 are at 24. 5, 6, 8. 8 players under the age of 25, and a couple of them are at 24. You don't see those next levels of players for Mexico. You don't see the Caleb Wileys. You don't see those. We'll get to Miles in just a sec, Michael. You don't see where Mexico is concerned. You don't see that next wave coming up. You have players who are in their mid-20s. You have some that are 30, but you don't see that next wave. When we're looking and we're talking about the U.S. men's national team, we can see that next wave coming. Part of it, yes, it is with, Caleb Wiley. But at the same time, we can see that coming. And we know that U.S. coaches have no fear in playing younger players, as you can tell when you go 20, 21, what have you. Short version on Miles is that it was a bit of a hamstring injury. He was pulled with 10 minutes to go in the semifinal, did not play in the final. And so just kept out. And as Nick says, it was on the bench last night, left out probably precautionary. So we'll keep an eye on that. But where the U.S. is concerned, that next wave, we know that next wave's coming. Correct, Abby. You've got Caleb and the younger Aronson. You have these waves coming in. You have all of them working their way forward. Mexico, you don't see that. Mexico, you don't have that. I don't know, frankly, how much longer Coca is going to be coach if these results continue to be what they are because of the highly reactionary nature of the of El Tree. So, we look at the top 3 teams in this hemisphere. Let's talk about Canada for a second. Average age 27.7. Squad size of 23. Borjan is 35. He's your starter from Red Star Belgrade. You've got Dane St. Clair, Tom McGill. You've got those two behind. Kamal Miller's 26. Stephen Vittoria's 36. Davies is 22. Sam Adekubi's 28. Alistair Johnston's 24. Richie Larea, who just fell down again, is 28. Atiba Hutchinson, who hung up his cleats after this tournament, finishes his career at 40. Eustachio is 26. Ismail Kone, we know about him from Watford. He's 21. Jonathan Osorio, 31. Laturi is a central midfielder, is 22. Junior Hoylett, 33. Tejan Buchanan, 24. Jonathan David, 23. Kyle Larin, 28. Lucas Cavallini, 30. My question would be, where Canada is concerned, where is that next wave? Where is that next wave coming from? Same question that we have for Mexico. Where is that next wave coming from? Where are those 18, 19, 20-year-olds that will be working their way in toward the lineup in 26, if not the lineup in 30? I don't see it. Same with Canada. We mentioned that roster size of 23. Let's use Kyle Larin as a benchmark at 28. Cavallini, Larin, Hoylett, Osorio, Dominic Zator at right back, Larea, Adekubi, Vittoria, Borjan. That's a third of your roster right now, 28 or older. Where is that? We see the younger players. We see the Alphonso Davies. We see the Alistair Johnstons, Ismail Kones, etc., Tejan Buchanan, Jonathan David. But where is that batch to help them come through? Where's the folks coming in from behind them? Don't see it. So when John Herdman is saying basically throw money at the problem, that is part of it, considering what we've talked about with the CSA and how messed up it is, allegedly. So right now it's the United States with its depth, and Mexico has fallen so far that your rival right now in CONCACAF is Canada. And you can see in adding Fuller and Balogun that gulf is going to get wider. Got to love your Cruton, Paul. Excellent. Tafka, and we'll get into all of the discussions. Let me go backwards here. Tafka and Nick's going back. You're looking at Paredes, Puxtas, Paxton, Slanina, Luna, McGlynn, Vargas, Craig, Winder, Cowell. How many names is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 who are close and developing time with the U18s, U20s, that kind of stuff. You've got all of these folks fighting for minutes and will be fighting for minutes. And from a U.S. perspective, you should be over the moon that you've got the players that you've got right now, the dual nationals that you've recruited, plus all the youngins that are working their way through. $10-3, future so bright. Can't say the same thing for Mexico. You can kind of see it in this initial wave for Canada, but how does Canada answer this initial wave? How do they get prepped for 27, 8, 9, and 30? You got a lot of prime athletes that are in their early 20s right now, and you are the rival for the United States. Make no mistake. It was Mexico. Mexico has been beaten the last 4 times against the United States. So who's your rival now? It's the folks. Well, if I point north, that's not north. Where's north? North. That way. From the studio, that way. North. That's where your rival is right now. I mean, Shooter, I understand where you're coming from. Shooter's still more scared of Mexico going forward. But they've got to calm down. I mean, and we know that this won't happen. The continued reactionary nature of the churn and burn of the coaches. You're not getting any kind of stability that way. And then what does that tell the players about the Fed if you're continuing to try and get the guy? Will's asking when the last time Mexico beat either the U.S. or Canada. 21 Gold Cup semis. And with Mexico, for those of you that might not have been around for the semifinals discussion, right now Mexico is at a point to where if they're in a match and they're getting boat raced, I mean, the horizon job is right there. The horizon job is right there for them. They are going to muck it up. They're going to do what they did in the semifinal. They're going to drag you down with it. And if they take some of your players out and put them out on red cards, then that's what they're going to do. That's not much of a winning philosophy. It's like, well, if we can't, we're taking you down with us. That's what you're seeing from Mexico right now. They're going to muck it up. They're going to fight you. They're going to try to annoy you. They're going to push you in the back when you're not looking, and they're going to try to draw a reaction out of you. We saw that in the semifinal. I'd still, for the life of me, love to know why Weston McKennie's red wasn't overturned, considering it was 1-on-7. And what's he supposed to do in that situation? Dest, I get. You're getting pushed. You're getting, mashed in the face. You're getting a face wash. It's all about composure. So Mexico, they got work. And they've got depth that they've got to find and have the courage to find and play. Canada has financial issues. Just ask their head coach. Then he admits they have work to do. But where is the depth after this wave of players? I mean, I don't see Borjan being in net at the age of 38, even though we know keepers age differently. Is Lorea there in his early 30s? Is Lucas Cavallini there at 33? Is Kyle Larin there at 31? Jonathan Osorio, is he in this World Championship in this hemisphere? I don't know if we can say the cup of the world, so we don't get in trouble. Osorio will be 34. Eustachio will be 29. Junior Hoylett 36. Larin 31. Cavallini 33. Lorea 31. Atakubi 31. Vittoria 39. Kamal Miller 29. Milan Borjan will be 38 come the world title chasing in 3 years. Dane St. Clair, no doubt. And I think I think that you're spot on. I think that does the Gold Cup roster get favored against this Mexico team? Absolutely. Quoting one of the great orators of this or any other era, Richard Fleer, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, Mexico has not been beating anybody. And I think that with the depth that you have, the depth that we've been talking about all morning long with the United States, that you should be able to take care of business in the Gold Cup and have it be another tournament in a row where you've knocked off everybody else. The depth is there for you. And the depth of the depth is there for you. That next wave we keep talking about. What was it? Tafka had 10 guys that were pretty close. You add Caleb Wiley and Brooks Lennon to that mix. The number of players that can be drawn into a talent pool for a tournament for the United States right now is a tremendous number. Don't mess it up. Why Brooks Lennon's on the sidelines for a tournament is beyond me. Exactly, Will. Exactly. Like it or don't like it, learn to love it because it's the best thing going today. That is true. In this hemisphere, U.S. soccer is the best thing going today. The U.S. were in control against Canada from the beginning. Should have had more goals on the board. But Chris Richards was not on the bingo card to have that as an added bonus. And Nix brings to the table the fact that some of the Mexican players had to be talked into staying for Gold Cup. Is just wild. They wanted to go. But that's where you are right now. That's where you are. Michael Valverde, is there any other team in the region that can compete for CONCACAF beyond the big three? Right now, no. All right, so let's, since Michael has brought let's look at the national team rankings, the club rankings. Well, not the club. I don't need club rankings. I need like national team rankings. And this is flawed. This is horrendously flawed. As of May 31st, so this was before the tournament started, or before the tournament finished, the CONCACAF ranking index, here's what you had, just to give you an idea. And there's a point system that's attached to it. So this was before the conclusion of Nations League. Mexico was number one in the CONCACAF ranking index before the end of this tournament that just completed. U.S. was number two. And then there's a bit of a gulf, 120 points. 120-point difference between 2 and 3, United States and Costa Rica. Canada was 4, Panama 5, and then you're looking at another 200 and something points in this ranking index before you get to Haiti, who's at 6. So to answer Michael Valverde's question, it's either one of two places. It's either Costa Rica or Panama. And Ricky and Bam are mentioning Panama with what we're seeing. You know, Panama making the third place match in the Nations League. And Bam with good youth coming through. So your top 5 right now in CONCACAF before the conclusion of Nations League. So I would anticipate that well, maybe. I mean, you're going to get some juggling here. I wonder how far Mexico falls in the point system, considering that the United States beat them in a final. But have Mexico ranked number 1, the member associations? I mean, for me, it's Panama. That would be the team that would, you sit there and you're like, okay. Panama and Costa Rica, and it legitimately depends. It absolutely legitimately depends. Men's world rankings, 23 and 4. All right, men's world rankings, 23 and 4. The U.S. right now at 13, Mexico at 15. This is as of April 6th, your FIFA World Rankings as of April 6th. So once again, there's still some spacing here. U.S. 13, Mexico 15, and then there's a while. Costa Rica 39, Canada 47, Panama 58, Jamaica 63. So that's where you are. That's what you're staring at. 13, 15, and then you got teams in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So kind of by default, I guess we're talking about Panama. Will is suggesting that there should be an international Nations League instead of a biennial World Cup. Make it like Confederations Cup again. But the question is, if you did an International Nations League instead of a biennial World Cup, would it make FIFA as much money? That's the question for FIFA. I think that if you have a World Cup, because you're calling it that, you're not going to make as much money if you're FIFA. If you call it an International Nations League or the League of Nations, I'm sure Woodrow Wilson would probably have something to say with you about that. That's your Google reference for today, kids. If you had an International Nations League or a League of Nations, I don't think it would give as much cachet, in all capital letters, bold-faced, italicized, and underlined, as it would when you're talking about World Cup. Because then you could sit there and sell the ever-loving blank out of it. Talk, if they continue to do a combined Copa once per cycle, that's enough. If you'd like more, but a Copa warm-up to each World Cup is a good start. I think that if you did something League of Nations, then, are all 212 invited, and then you have your eliminations and you work your way through in each of the zones and do something like that? Frankly, I'd love to see something like an all-in tournament. But I don't think it would have the cachet of a biennial World Cup. We're bringing the world together, the 48 nations that qualify and, all that kind of stuff. I think that it would be a little different. How is the opponent on the 28th TBD? That means that I don't think they'd updated their graphics yet. Somebody in the web department hadn't gotten in there. They hadn't updated it yet. Someone was off for the weekend, and they didn't get to update. So, I think that's what you're staring at. Yeah, well, like I said, Tavka, you got to kind of make it kind of different. Kind of the same, but kind of different if you're trying to sell it. So, yeah, like the Will wants to make it like the old European Cup Winners' Cup. And I think that's what you should call it, the Cup Winners' Cup. I think you should have the word cup in there, at least every other word. A Cup Winners' Cup winning cup competition cup. Something like that. Let's get into the performance numbers. We do this as a reference point, player ratings and such. Mike Waitala over at Soccer America. Matt Turner got a 6. We really didn't, have a whole lot of work to do. Joe Scally, and I noticed that Scally's responses on social media were hot and cold. Either you loved him or you hated him. There was no in between. There were not folks that sat there and went, Joe Scally was all right. Everybody where Joe Scally was concerned was, oh my God, he was great defending Alphonso Davies, or he sucked. There was no in between with Joe Scally. There was no in between whatsoever. So Scally, Walker Zimmerman, and Anthony Robinson each got 7s. Chris Richards got an 8, probably got the extra number because he scored. Midfield, Gio Reyna. Once again, Gio Reyna, gorgeous ball to Balogun. So Balogun could get goal number 2. Assisted on the first, getting the corner kick. Helped out Balogun on the second. Lasted 45 minutes because you could tell he was kind of dinged up and they needed to pull him. Brendan Aronson, Yunus Musa. Brendan Aronson gets a 6. Yunus Musa is 7. Gio Reyna an 8. Pulisic gets a 6. Christian Pulisic, I mean, he was getting chopped down like Luke Brennan. There's your Atlanta United 2 reference for the day. We'll get into the 2s in a little bit, too, in hour number 2. He was getting chopped down, and nothing was getting called, and he was getting kind of hot about it, understandably so. Pulisic gets a 6 from Mike Woitala. Balogun gets the 8 for the obvious reason. Tim Weah gets a 7. Luca De La Torre gets a 5 as a sub, as does Ricardo Pepi. Johnny gets a 6. Austin Trusty gets a no rating, basically because he was in for like the last 5 minutes. But yeah, so let's once again. So here's what we're staring at: Arsenal, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Nashville SC, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Valencia, Leeds, Dortmund, Lille, Reims, through Arsenal, Chelsea, Celta de Vigo, Internacional of Brazil, Groningen in the Netherlands, Birmingham City in England. Said Martinez was from Honduras, was your center ref. So it was a Honduran crew. Your VARs were from Costa Rica. And an alleged crowd of 35,000. Shots 15-12, shots on target 7-4, 4 saves for Turner, 5 for Borjan, 8-5 corners for the U.S., 16 fouls to 15 for the U.S., 31 fouls called on the day, 64% possession from Canada. But once again, we sit there and it's like, what does possession really mean? It is what you do. It is what you do with it when you've got it. I always think of possession in soccer kind of like possession in college football. If you like to run the ball, obviously you're going to have the possession numbers. If you keep possession of the ball, you keep it away from the other team, you're going to have a higher possession number. If you run spread, doesn't matter what you do. You run spread offense in college football, doesn't matter what the possession numbers are. How many points you got on the scoreboard? And yeah, USA Jamaica is the Group A opener Saturday in Chicago. So that's what you're staring at. 2 goals in the first 34 minutes. Chris Richards in the 12th off the corner, and then Balogun in the 34th minute. 2-0. Austin Trusty, Tom, is at Birmingham City. Austin Trusty is at Birmingham City right now. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, we got a lot of news this morning. We'll get into it. Michael Valverde, and I'll pose this question to the floor. This will be a question to the floor. So we start hour number 2. Michael wants to know, how does the men's national team get better when only tested against regional competition? Scheduling makes it impossible to get many runouts with a full squad against top international comps. And, because, and when you're trying to schedule international friendlies, a lot of the time it's against a decided underdog, and you're trying to make sure that you can get your system squared away. And it's like, all right, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? So that is the question of the scheduling, Michael. It is the question of the scheduling when it comes to national team stuff. When you've got camps, who's available, who wants to play you. I mean, that's why you end up with the U.S. and Bosnia-Herzegovina, all that kind of stuff. Tom's got a good friend who's a Birmingham City fan, comes over often, going to be here for the next few weeks. Cool. Spread the gospel next Wednesday. Absolutely. Since we are at the halfway point, I guess it's time to read a promo, eh? We'll keep talking U.S. men's national team. Like I said, we got news. We got a lot of it. When Jarrett comes back specifically, I want to discuss his new manager or his old manager being his new manager. All right, Tom, thanks for hanging out for the first hour. But, as you all well know, since it is the beginning of hour number 2, I have to take music out of loop. I have to take it all the way down to 15 or so I can read a promo. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. The Lemonize service deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either above us in the cupboard or below the sink, because when you reach below the sink or above you in the cupboard to pull out the masking agent, you spray it in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because all it does is mask the odor. It doesn't attack the problem like our friends at the Lemonize service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing, very, very easy, either by the cubic feet or parts per million, and come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. And this is where I pick up my pen. ELIMINIZE.com, but after the .com goes /Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can help you with your issues. Lemonize.com /Atlanta, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. A Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Monday. It was interesting to do the show as we do once a year from the mountains, because as you could tell, you're in the mountains and your internet's kind of spotty, so kind of hiccupy and everything. And thanks for everybody for putting up with all of this up there in the mountains. And like I said, this week is pretty normal. Only the Friday show will be done from the shores of Jersey. We'll be at a hotel room in an undisclosed location, and we'll do the show on Friday from there as we get ready for the Unified match with Atlanta United Unified and Red Bulls Unified, and Atlanta United and Red Bulls on Saturday night at 7:39 on 92.9 The Game, with the call from Red Bull Arena in Harrison, New Jersey. The Unified match will be on the website, the team website, atlutd.com. So it'll be fun to be up there for that. And thanks to Atlanta United for the opportunity to showcase the Unified team on the road. There's that match in Harrison, New Jersey, and then there's one upcoming in September in Dallas against FC Dallas in Frisco. So that's the rest of your Unified schedule for the year, but it'll be great to get up there and be a part of that. So that is your schedule for the week. Everything's normal. Midweek whip around and a weekend whip around Wednesday and Friday on the show. Our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring will be on Friday as well. We'll get you ready with all the news and all the stuff that's fit to print. We'll have all the episodic programming, all the USL stuff, all the MLS Next Pro. Any 1v1s that come our way, we'll keep an eye on all that stuff as well. The twos last night, goalless draw after 90 minutes in York, Ontario at York Lions Stadium against Toronto FC2 and the Young Reds. Go to penalties, and it ended in the 6th frame. And Toronto FC2 gets the extra point. But 2 penalty kick shootout appearances for Atlanta United. So 2 draws on the road in these last 2 matches for the road trip. They come back Sunday night against NYCFC2 at the Fraction, and then they go back out for another 2 matches. So that's the one time that you'll be able to see them like this month is this Sunday. So NYCFC, I think it's a 5 o'clock start too. NYCFC 2, Atlanta United 2 at the Fraction, 5 o'clock on Sunday. afternoon. Tafka, about the national team, BJ did us a huge favor. Proof of concept of Gio at the 10. If Greg takes the team back and then goes away from it, there's no more speculation that it might work. If it does work, it worked against Canada. Works better than anything we've seen prior. And Michael, yes, to Michael Valverde's point, the big teams are now pretty much locked up in regional cup competitions. Shooter wants me to bring some Eliminize to Jersey. Lots of people who spray the axe too heavy. Speaking of MLS Next Pro, the win streak continues for Jack Collison and Hunt City. 2-0 winners over Inter Miami last night. 3 in a row, 18 points. 2 matches in hand on everyone above you, and you started with your first 7 on the road. So there's going to be streaks where there's going to be full houses at Joe Davis. Well, how are the crowds after the initial match where the fire marshal was the most important guy? How are the crowds? Have the crowds stayed where they're supposed to? Full houses there at Joe Davis, the inquiring minds. But no, Jack Collison and Hunt City starting their year with 7 on the road, 49-74 last night. Excellent. So good stuff in Hunt City with our friend Jack Collison, and they're climbing out of the basement in the conference standings after spending their first 7 on the road. So very, very cool stuff there. News of this morning, and, we talked about Brendan Rodgers, and Brendan Rodgers is now officially, in writing, back to being the head coach at Celtic. So there's that. And to me, it just seems, what's the word I'm looking for? Lazy. You know that it's like something that's there, and instead of you were ambitious in getting Ange Postecoglou, but then all of a sudden Ange leaves to go to Spurs, and you end up with Brendan Rodgers. I fear for the talent that Ange brought in with what Brendan Rodgers may bring to the table. Nick, you probably could back me up on that. Gary O'Neill was sacked at Bournemouth this morning. He took charge of Bournemouth after Scotty Tuhati got blown out 9-0. And then it was a great run at the end of the season where you end up with Bournemouth finishing, Bournemouth finished, 13th last year? 10 wins and 6 draws in the Premier League, enough to maintain the position in the top flight. Bill Foley labeled the sacking a difficult decision. And it looks like Anthony Iraola recently left Rayo Vallecano. He could be the number 1 dude in the bullpen to bring them back. And speaking of bringing folks back, we were getting into coaching changes down here. I had mentioned Gary O'Neill getting sacked by Bournemouth and American owner Bill Foley this morning. It looks like Iraola is the leader in the clubhouse to get the gig. It is now it is now officially official that Brendan Rodgers is back at Celtic?
I'm pretty sure it is. Just whatever.
I mean, lacking in imagination is probably the best way that I can phrase it.
It feels like the kind of move this board would make, though, because, yeah, it lacks an imagination. It's just kind of lazy, man. Like,
it's safe.
It is very safe. He had success there before. That won't. I think he will have success there again. He'll win trophies, I'm sure. I still am bitter about the idea of you going back to someone who already just jilted you, and you don't think for a second he won't do it again. And also the thing I talked about last week, and the thing I've talked about before. You are a club that is just going to absolutely dominate your league, along with Rangers at times. But y'all are going to dominate. That's just nature of the universe here. Have some damn ambition, man.
Mm-hmm.
Go get somebody.
Yeah.
Go get, and like, look, I get it. Ange was kind of like, Ange was a surprise. No one expected him to be what he is. Um, but still, go for it. Go get somebody who's got crazy ideas, maybe, who might be the right guy to if you give him a club with a big budget, he might get the job done, and it might be wild. Like, go give that guy the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
instead of going back to Brendan again. Like, I'm just salty about it. But it is what, like I said, it is what it is, because he's going to be successful, most likely. If he's not, then we are going to have a riotous time laughing, and I'm going to be highly annoyed. But whatever. Um, the older I get, the less I care about just them doing well specifically, and more about the absolute stupid chaos that is Scotland in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, it's just like, you went for the guy who left you in the middle of the night, and now you're going to him again, because why the hell not? Because it's again, it's the easiest choice, and it's the least amount of work for the board, and it's the
Yeah.
least amount of risk. But when you're an old firm club, you should be taking risk. Because even if it doesn't work, are you really going to finish third?
Yeah.
Are you really going to finish third?
No.
No, you're not.
No, you're not. Heavy sigh.
Yeah, it's a 3-year deal. It's just, I'm sure I am very confident in thinking, like, they'll probably build some sort of clause in there this time. But at the same time, a part of my brain goes, no, they won't. And if he finds a modicum of success,
Oh, he's out.
old boy gonna slip out the window.
He is so gone.
I know. And he's getting left an absolute monstrous team that is very fun. Let's see what he does with it.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan's looking to rehab.
Mm-hmm. The coaching rehabilitation tour, Brendan Rodgers goes back to Celtic.
Lennoxtown Rehabilitation Clinic is back open.
News from The Athletic this morning. Lindsey Horan staying in France with Lyon past the conclusion of her loan spell. Sources tell Meg Linehan Horan had signed a contract extension with Portland for the 25 season at the time of her original loan. So kind of dribs and drabs and notes and things like that through this morning. Also, you're getting a lot of Chelsea players. You're getting Chelsea players working their way apparently to Saudi Arabia. Chelsea is so it's Ziyech, Koulibaly, and Mendy, all believed to be moving to the Middle East. Romelu Lukaku, however, is not. But it looks like those three are heading that way. N'Golo Kante expected to complete his free transfer move to Al Ittihad once his contract expires at the end of the month. So offloading Ziyech, Koulibaly, Mendy, and Aubameyang to Saudi Arabia would be a significant boost to Chelsea, who could earn upwards of $50 million in transfer fees and save millions on wages. Apparently, Todd Boehly met earlier this month with the president of Al Hilal. Boehly has long done business in Saudi Arabia, according to our friends at The Telegraph. Last year revealed that Kane International, one of the companies for which he sits on the board, had teamed up with the country's PIF over a $900 million investment in a luxury hotel group. So Todd Boehly and the crossovers when it comes to getting rid of players. Yeah, so not necessarily a surprise. The Man City chair, Khaldoun Al-Mubarak, has addressed the Premier League charges after the treble triumph. He says he could not discuss the case in any detail while legal proceedings were ongoing. But the City chair could not conceal his dismay at the way he feels the club has been characterized since being hit by the charges and the perceived efforts to diminish the success of Pep Guardiola, his players, and staff. Quote, yes, of course. I mean, it's very frustrating because it takes so much from the great work that's happening at this club, and it's happening not just on the football pitch. The football pitch, we talked about that. What these players have achieved this year, the treble is incredible. I hope people focus and judge them for their football and what they're achieving on the pitch and what they're achieving in every competition they're in. That's the reality, end quote. Remember, you've got charges covering 14 seasons. A 4-year investigation by the Premier League, City could face an unprecedented range of punishments, including a suspension, points deductions, sweeping fines, and the ultimate sanction of expulsion from the league if found guilty, but the club vehemently denied any wrongdoing. Al-Mubarak says proceedings would take whatever time they take. Legal experts have predicted the case could last as long as 2 to 4 years, but vowed to pull no punches over his thoughts on the matter when the opportunity presents itself. Quote, so obviously I can't talk about them, unfortunately, for legal reasons. And what I would typically always do is comment after. So I think we're going to go through the legal process. These are proceedings that take whatever time they take. And when we're done, we'll have a conversation. I'll give you my very blunt views. I promise you that. I have very strong views on that, but I'm going to be, unfortunately, very restrained today. He insists that City's success is down to the club being extremely well run on and off the pitch, and have expressed bemusement at criticism of their spending when they've routinely posted handsome net profits in the transfer markets in recent seasons. 68.5 in 2021, 67.7 the following year. Likely to post an even higher profit for last year after raising around $193 million from sales, $65 million of that from academy products. $613 million turnover in 21-22. So the man in charge at Manchester City, Khaldoon Al-Mubarak, is it's like I'll tell you what I'm thinking, but I'm not going to tell you right now. And Pep Guardiola has officially ruled out Manchester City transferring for Kylian Mbappe since he had no intention of being past the end of his contract at PSG for 2024. So Manchester City out of the way. Real Madrid, obviously leader in the clubhouse when it comes to Kylian Mbappe. But yeah, Jarrett, Manchester City, they're like, yeah, they want this to happen quickly. Pep Guardiola has said he wants all of this stuff to happen quickly. It was a 4-month investigation to get the charges posted. A lot of folks are saying it's going to take another 2 to 4 years. But yeah, we're successful because the club is so well run. Not the fact that that you could be throwing funds in multiple directions and have it representing the same thing. But that's just me. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
It's easy to point to all, like, we do everything right. We're so well run, blah blah blah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's easy to do that when, like, you can just
when you win everything.
when you buy everything, you can win everything. And they do look, I mean, they do run things well, and that they are able to sell people. I don't know what people are expecting from the investigation.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're exactly expecting. We shall see.
Mm-hmm. Ricky Ricardo has brought up an interesting question. And it was something that we talked about in our production thread. Ricky wants to know, is there any more credence or information regarding the situation with Darwin Mateus's contract? And it came out yesterday from Clon Perez. He's got 22,000 followers on the Bird app, so you're kind of like, okay, all right, so we can kind of follow along here. But Clon Perez mentioned yesterday on Twitter, and I've got to go back and get the translation, so this may take a minute. When we were discussing it yesterday, basically, in a nutshell, and I have not seen, and Jarrett, I don't know if you have seen anything else on it after yesterday when it initially happened, but we have no new information from what was posted about Darwin and his contract. So, Clon Perez and I'm gonna go and Google Translate what it was on Twitter. So, but basically, the way that this is, the allegation is that the club forged player signatures to extend the contract. The club says that didn't happen. And so maybe the agent's getting a cut. Is Darwin claiming that the agent colluded with the club and then took money from the deal? I mean, this was when this popped up yesterday, we were like, man, that was crazy.
Well, yeah, at that point, you're just trying to sift through it and you're trying to figure out what it all could mean because it could go in a bunch of different directions, you know? It's kind of hard to piece it together. Which is understandable. Like, I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot to kind of take apart with it because like and the story might change. I mean, it sounds like yeah, like it may have been a thing where somebody at management at the older club forged his signature to make sure they could get a transfer fee so he didn't leave on a free.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead.
And this is the thing that still pisses me off. Because depending on what corner of Atlanta United Twitter you're on, I mean, people's first assumption was, what did they screw up? What did they do? Like, no, not anything they particularly screwed up in this one. Quit looking for a reason to be upset and miserable.
Yeah.
Get the damn facts about something like this, which is complicated. It's not a straightforward discussion.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
So get the information on it before you just assume that everything is bad and grim and miserable and trash. Because if you want to live that way, cool, man, but like it's exhausting.
Yeah.
I promise you, it's an exhausting way to live your life.
And dating back to August of 22, and this is what I had thought that we had gone down this road before. In August of 22, for background, the father of Darwin Mateus had denounced the forgery of signatures by Zamora FC. Wilmer Mateus explained it had already been verified through the correspondence, and this is Google Translate. Wilmer Mateus explained it has already been verified through the corresponding studies that his signature and that of his son that appear on the sales document are false.
Tafka, it's being alleged by the previous club, to my knowledge, unless there's something I missed. Just a heads up, like John, unless there's something I missed, like it's being alleged that the previous club may have forged.
Yeah,
yes.
This is Zamora.
This isn't like Atlanta forged anything. This is like the allegation is that the previous club may have forged something, or his agent may have forged something.
Yeah.
So this isn't an Atlanta thing.
No, this is Zamora.
This isn't it. This is honestly, if that's what happened, Atlanta might be entitled to financial compensation, kind of thing.
Yeah. Dating back to August of 2022. This is when this whole thing, I think, started, and it has now just bubbled back up with Clon Perez's tweet yesterday, and we've also got some stuff from Reporte FUTVE as well, Sports Venezuela. Wilmer Mateus posted a video, Darwin's dad, in which he denounces the Zamora FC board of directors for falsifying signatures to sell the players' sports rights to Atlanta United.
All good, Taka. You good? That's why I'm trying to like make sure, like, yeah, this isn't like something where Atlanta like committed some crazy,
Yeah, this was not a shenanigan.
This isn't like an Atlanta shenanigan. This is like one where like, hey, Atlanta might be entitled to financial compensation by the time we're all done here.
Yeah, so
this is all really stupid.
Yeah, so in August of 22, the complaint is addressed to the Attorney General of the Republic. He indicated that the second prosecutor's office has been filing a complaint since June of 22. So this is a year-old thing that has bubbled back up in the last 24 hours. Filing a complaint since June 8th of 2022, quote, on our part against Zamora FC for the alleged crime of forging documents of a contract between my son and the club using signatures and fingerprints, false fingerprints, to make a profit behind a sale of my son's sports rights to an American club. Mateus revealed the investigations verified that neither he nor the footballer signed the document in question. He asked the prosecutor to take this case to its final consequences and that the executives involved be charged, according to several social communicators in the country and social media. This would not be the only case in which the Barinas group would be involved. Currently, the team led by the Guyanese Noel San Vicente is the leader of the FUTVE League and is heading to qualify for Copa Libertadores back in 23. Darwin was developing with the USL Championship. Reporte, our friends at Reporte FUTVE, back in May, started their investigation and then updated it where it's the pressure and intimidation against the Zamora club would also involve relatives who managed the career of the players of Darwin Mateus and Jose David Serrano Suarez, who for profit seek an economic return that does not come in time or form. So this has been, it's bubbling back up, but it started about a year ago involving alleged forged signatures of Darwin Mateus as his old club Zamora was trying to sell him on. And so this has come back with Clon Perez's tweets yesterday. So what I will do is I will post the original article from a year ago in the Twitch pitch, and you guys can read about the origin of what we saw with Darwin Mateus popping back up with Clon Perez yesterday. So this has been going on for a year, going back to June of 2022. So it's it's messy stuff that we're seeing with Darwin Mateus, and it does not appear to have any end in sight anytime soon. So we had that this morning or yesterday.
Yeah, man. And it's weird because, like, I wondered if if Darwin could be a dude who could make the jump, or could be a USL player.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I think for him, it was a matter of health and consistency, which sucked. But Darwin had some really fun moments here. I hate that now he's having to deal with this as part of his career, because it sounds like it was not anything he knew about what was going on.
Yeah.
And he has every reason to be very, very pissed off right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just staring at the Mendy transfer to Saudi Arabia, and just like, man, Saudi Arabia is just out here like bailing out all of Chelsea, and I'm just very confused.
Well, there's that, and now apparently Wolves, Ruben Neves, is possibly going to be transferred for £47 million to Saudi Arabia. He was in talks with Barca, but now Neves is on the brink, according to our friends at the Telegraph, of completing almost a £50 million move to Al Hilal. So he would join CR38 and Karim Benzema at Al Hilal next season. So Lopetegui apparently fully sanctioned the transfer. Deal is regarded as a coup for the club amid their concerns over FFP. And I'm, it's all of a sudden, Wolves, when Lopetegui says, man, this is a coup for us, we've got FFP problems. So we'll sell Ruben Neves for £47 million. They spent nearly $200 million last year and are under pressure to raise funds to avoid FFP breaches. They're under pressure to sell before they can buy this summer. Have to lower their cost base, and it can be viewed as a deal with just 12 months left on the contract. So Lopetegui is, they say that Lopetegui's in for it. He's good to go. But, so we'll see. So he signed for 15 and he's flipped for 47. That's not a bad piece of business for Wolves. They're also looking at Podence, Jose Sa, Ryan Ait-Nouri. So Wolves could be looking at stuff out the door. Oh, I knew what I wanted to talk about. And as much as I'm enjoying Peter Drury being named to take over from Martin Tyler for Sky. It was another round of stupidity down here this weekend. Another round of stupidity down here. And we may have a visit from Bart Keeler to wrap up the show, depending on if the real world gets in his way or not. So we can talk about what we saw from Las Vegas. So we might have Bart drop by before the end of the show if the real world cooperates. But we had another round of stupidity down here this weekend. And it had to do with, sadly, a topic and an individual that that we've had to talk about a lot. And it's Vinicius Jr. And it was, and I want to get this right. I want to get the phraseology right. It was a match where his team wore black to stand in support for an anti-racism stance. So they played in an all-black kit for the first time, took a stand against racism in Spain. It was a friendly against Guinea in Barcelona on Saturday. 4-1 in support of Vinicius Jr. And we talked about all the Vinicius Jr. stuff and being hanged in effigy and all that kind of stuff, being mocked. So racially abused, played in a game against Valencia. And another alleged racist incident occurred on Saturday before the friendly against Guinea. Brazil CBF President Ednaldo Rodriguez, fight against racism, a crime that needs to stop around the world, is also why we are here. It's why our national team played the first half of the match in black, posed in front of a banner with racism, there is no game. Vinicius Jr. and his teammates took a knee as a part of this. But once again, you end up with stupidity down here. Globo now reports that prior to Brazil's match, Felipe Silva was targeted by a security guard as he entered Espanyol Stadium in Barcelona. Silva, who works as Vinicius' advisor also, was approached by the security guard who pulled out a banana and pointed at him. He's alleged to have said, "Hands up, this is my gun for you," end quote. And video does exist. Videos have circulated showing Silva and the entourage confronting a group of security guards, seemingly asking for an explanation. After the game, Vinicius posted the following. He posted this statement on Twitter. "While I was playing with the already historic black shirt and getting emotional, my friend was humiliated and mocked at the entrance to the stadium. The treatment was sad. At all times, they doubted the surreal scene that happened. Backstage is disgusting, but to make everything public, I ask those responsible, where are the security camera footage?" End quote. And then Rodriguez came in and he mentioned the fight against racism, crime needs to stop all over the world, is also why we're here. The same reason FIFA President Gianni Infantino came here from Zurich. That's also why our team played the first half of the match in black. It's a manifesto, it's a flag, it's a mission to banish from world football not only racism, but any and all forms of violence inside and outside stadiums. We've received the solidarity of all of our federal federations and confederations around the world wanting to join Brazil in this fight. And today, once again, another criminal was publicly exposed. So that's your run of stupidity down here. And, I know a lot of folks will sit there and say, well, why do you keep bringing this stuff up? Because if we don't, then we're not doing it. Oh, good morning, Gustavo. Hola. If we're not bringing the topic up, then we're doing a disservice to the game and the individuals that are attached to it. So when we have stupidity down here, no, Ricky, the conversation cannot stop. And that's why when I see stuff like this, it goes to the front of the line when I remember it. with the 9,000 things going on in my head every show. I feel like I need to write stuff down. But when you see stupid-ish like this, I mean, it's incumbent upon all of us to continue to sit there and be beacons for what is smart and what is good. And to continue to expose morons, allegedly, when they apparently do things like this. Like I said, the video is out there and it's snippets and things like that on social media, and you can find it. But, and for Vinicius Jr. to continue to be the lightning rod in all of this, it's disgusting, first and foremost. But I don't know why people continue to feel compelled to go after Vinicius Jr. after he's been gone after and gone after and gone after, knowing full well that Vinicius Jr. is not going to sit quietly. His teammates are not going to sit quietly. Advisor's not going to sit quietly. Superior's not going to sit quietly. So you feel compelled to continue to go down that road. You want to keep poking at Vinicius Jr., one of the brightest stars in this game. And you want to keep sitting there and doing stuff in and around his activities. That's really not smart business. But of course, when it comes to stupidity down here, it's not necessarily associated with the brightest bulbs in the light stanchion. So I will say this as well to everyone in the Twitch pitch and everyone that listens to the show. If I miss one of these instances, remind me. Post it in the Twitch pitch, shoot me an email, shoot me a DM, I don't care. Remind me so we can continue to show stupidity for what it is and continue. There's nothing better than exposing stupidity with sunshine. You put a light on stupid and expose it for what it is, then we continue to be good stewards of the game. And ropes with a point needs to be a point where sponsors stop affiliating with teams that have these moments. Sadly though, I love that. But sadly, that there will be a sponsor that will step in that will not be taken aback by a stance like that. You will always find a sponsor that is willing to step in these situations because, for whatever reason, they share that view. And that's the beauty of free enterprise, is that you will always have a lane of traffic that's attached to your product that you can go down. Ropes, I love the idea. And if a sponsor is found out to endorse that kind of stupidity, then they ought to be called out. They ought to be boycotted. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a team do that. If it got to the point to where, in the reverse, I'd love to see a sponsor pull out if they saw something, and at the same time, I'd also love to see a team if they didn't like where a sponsor was coming from philosophically to pull that plug as well. But no, I'd love to see something like that happen, where a sponsor's like, no, enough's enough, we're out. You guys want to pull this kind of a thing? We don't want anything to do with you. I'd love that. I'd love to see something like that happen. So, that's your soapbox, I guess, for today. And there was another element that, if I can find it, I will. But it had to do with another batch of stupidity. And found it. Okay. Man pleads guilty over offensive football shirt worn to the FA Cup final. A Manchester United fan who wore a shirt with a reference to Hillsborough Is banned from games for 4 years.
Why would you even whatever, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you think that's a good or funny idea?
Yeah.
I realize I may be asking a rhetorical question
Yeah.
because
Pleaded guilty to displaying threatening or abusive
God.
writing likely to cause harassment, alarm, or distress after wearing a football shirt at Wembley that made an offensive reference to the Hillsborough disaster. 33-year-old, whose name I'm not going to express on this show, admitted the charge at Magistrates Court in Northwest London. The court heard that at the FA Cup final, he wore a Manchester United shirt that had the number 97 and the words, "Not enough," on the back. White was banned from all regulated football games in the UK for 4 years, fined $1,000, ordered to pay a surcharge of $485 in court costs. I'm sorry.
Congratulations, you're acting like you're acting like an edgy 14-year-old.
You're an ass.
Like you think you're being some edgelord about this stuff. You're just a dick.
Yeah.
You're just telling people that you're not a good human being to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you'll throw your hands up later and think, "Oh no, it was just a joke. That's not really who I am." Like, but
I
we
don't
have this
care.
conversation. We have this conversation all the time of someone shows you who they are, you believe them. Because whatever, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So that dude
No,
thought it
Jason,
was,
you're right. And I get you're rhetorical about it, but
I mean,
dude,
yeah.
I don't
So,
know what's wrong with people. Like, holy hell.
yeah. So the guy,
Sorry, I'm dumbfounded.
I'm guessing it was a jersey, where you can personalize a jersey. And so he personalizes a shirt, is what it was referred to as. Referred to it, he's got the number 97 on the back of a Manchester United shirt and the words "not enough." I'm guessing where the nameplate would be. Where is Manchester United in all of this? Manchester United should be the first group of people to stand up and go, you know what? We don't want this kind of guy coming to our games. You're banned, period. You can't come to any Manchester United game for the remainder of time you're drawing breath on this planet. Instead, the court bans him from all games for 4 years. The guy will be in his mid-30s, presumably the back nine of his life ahead of him, where he can do whatever he wants. But a 4-year ban, $1,000 fine, plus 485 pounds in court costs.
But here's the thing. Like, what are you expecting him in 40 years to just magically decide, like,
I
you
made
know
a
what?
mistake.
Yeah, my bad, guys. Oopsie.
Yeah.
Is that what you're expecting here?
Oh, that's what I absolutely think that's what the court is thinking about
But
rehabilitation and such.
but what you're expecting and what's probably going to happen are two different things.
Correct.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So he gets fined pounds, another 485 pounds in court costs, and you're banned from games for 4 years. Wow, that's making a statement. I mean, come the blank on. The guy wears a shirt promoting his thoughts on one of the worst fan disaster moments in the history of sport. And it's a 4-year suspension from watching matches and basically
in person.
In person.
This is the difference here. Because homeboy's still gonna be able to go down to the pub.
Yeah. And I will guarantee you that when he goes down to the pub, he's going to have buddies slap him on the back like it's a badge of honor. Yeah, man, you did great. Way to show him. You got, we'll help pay your fines. guarantee you he will have friends help pay his fines and buy his pints at the pub for going up against the man, going up against the Liverpool fan. Yeah, you're showing them. Way to go. That's the kind of guy you, Manchester United, want to have as a fan? You want that kind of guy? If I'm Manchester United, if I'm Sheikh Jassim or Sir Jim Ratcliffe or whomever, because I know the Glazers aren't going to do it. If I'm the front office at Manchester United, I mean, if I'm reaching out, if I'm Eric Ten Hag, the first thing I'm doing if I'm Eric Ten Hag is I'm making a public statement saying that guy is not welcome anywhere associated with any event with Manchester United ever again. Ropes, right, lifetime ban. But as I always say in situations like this, the enforcement of it is going to be the problem. You can sit there and say, from the top of your lungs, you get a lifetime ban. We're going to fine you 8 gazillion pounds. You got to pay for it in like 3 weeks. Postage due and all that. But I have seen nothing since this judgment came down. I've seen nothing. I mean, and this came out, literally, this came out this morning. No immediate reaction whatsoever from Manchester United. Wow, Bart actually got out of the real world. So, sorry, Bart, we're yelling at idiots. We had stupidity down here while we were waiting for you.
You're yelling at the entire country of Canada for all the smack they talked the past year about how good they were at soccer?
Well, and we did have John,
and then got blanked in the final, John. They lost 2-0 in the final after all that smack they talked. Man,
that's true.
Man,
that's true. Yeah,
it felt
good. Sorry, continue.
That's no. But we had our dose of stupidity down here this morning. And we talked about the moron alleged security guard who allegedly pulled a banana out at the Vinicius Jr. match, the Brazil-Guyana match, at one of Vinicius Jr.'s advisors, and said, "This is my gun for you." And then we talked about the genius who, at the FA Cup final, wore a Manchester United shirt. I imagine it was a personalized jersey, is what we would call it. And it had the number 97 on it, and I guess on the nameplate it said "not enough," making a reference to Hillsborough. And so the guy, who I'm not going to name, got a regulated football game ban of 4 years in the UK, which means if Manchester United, his club, goes to European football, apparently this guy can go watch Champions League if he wants. $1,000 fine, surcharge, and court costs of just under £500. So £1,500 banned from UK regulated football games for 4 years for a Manchester United jersey shirt kind of deal that says 97, not enough on the back. I've seen nothing come out for Manchester United. This came out 3 hours ago. 3.5 hours ago, I've seen nothing from Manchester United mentioning that kind of stupidity and how they want to disassociate from it and how the guy should have a lifetime ban. Now, turning the conversation back to your initial thoughts as to who we were addressing when it came to stupidity down here, Herdman, John, Ropes with a question, wondering if you've sobered up.
Yes, I did. I did not sleep much last night, but look, okay. I think we talked about this maybe before, John, but the Nations League feels bigger. Not just because all the teams are playing their A teams, but because this little 4-game or 2-game format, right, makes it so that you can focus on just these, the semifinal and the final. When you get into the Gold Cup, the unfortunate reality is I don't care much to watch us play Jamaica next Saturday, right? I'm excited. We should win by a large scoreline. Then we play some combination of Antigua and Barbuda and like some other multi-name island nation. And we finish with Trinidad and Tobago. So these are teams that are not very good. Let's just you have to call it they're not very good. And then to even get to like our first good team, it will be the semifinal of the Gold Cup. So that slog that you as a fan even have to go through doesn't exist when you just have the top 4 teams in CONCACAF meeting for this weekend series. And that is the big thing that why I do like the Nations League format, because all the matches are meaningful and competitive, but they're not overloaded. You get to enjoy them piecemeal. And this last piece of it, the finals weekend, is so fun. And the fact that we got to beat Mexico and Canada aggregate 5-0, it just feels so much. It feels so much bigger than winning a Gold Cup championship. And I'm sorry to besmirch the tradition of the Gold Cup. The thing that we have to play every 2 years for some reason that I don't understand still. But the Nations League just feels like a bigger achievement in the long run.
Man, Bart used the word besmirch. Jarrett, for Bart, go for it.
So what does Canada do now? Let's turn this and have a little bit of schadenfreude, Bart, because what does Canada do now? Because we know Canada has some dynamic players. We know if you get in a track meet with them, you're tempting fate a little bit. But what do they need to do to take the next step? Because you're better than Mexico, which that doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Yeah,
Mexico is a tire fire, seen from many miles away.
Yes.
But what do they is Herdman the guy? What do they need to do to take a next step?
Well, that's a good question, because I don't think it's necessarily with this group of players right now, because I think, Jarrett, this is by far their most talented player pool they've ever had. The problem is even their starting 11 had pretty glaring deficiencies. Nothing well, I shouldn't say glaring, but they had deficiencies, right? And their backups, outside of maybe Tajon Buchanan, are not able to change a game the way that they need to beat us specifically, and honestly to make sure they're fully ahead of Mexico. So I think the next step for Canada soccer as a whole, because we see this on their women's side, is how do you get your domestic clubs to truly create academy systems that are producing professional ready players by 17, 18, 19 years old. Because they have to be able to restock once this group starts aging out. Once they start, they just need players in general when you go into these tournaments, that you need depth. Because I think that was kind of the issue between World Cup qualifying versus the World Cup, where in qualifying, they caught everyone by surprise, and they played a style of play that was really useful in CONCACAF, because in CONCACAF, you're going to get teams making a lot of mistakes. And that's great when you have very good attacking talent. But the fact is, when they were put under pressure defensively, especially last night, they did not rise to that challenge at all. And that, to me, is also where they need to work on is defensively, because they performed well defensively in qualifying. Again, I think that's because of the way they play, forced a lot of errors from their opponents. But last night, when the U.S. wasn't, we committed errors. We only had a 60-some% passing percentage, which is not very great. But they were unable to deal with our attack when we attacked them. Once we got through that line of pressure, once we got through the midfield, and were able to put their defensive line under pressure, they were unable to really do anything. And they're lucky Borjan had a great game, because if he hadn't, the first half could have been 4-0. I mean, really, we were that good at creating chances.
Mm-hmm. And we went through the current roster locations of the players that were active in the final, and for the U.S. And it wasn't just like it had been in cycles past, where it's a lot of domestics and the occasional player from overseas. And it is a lot of players in the European theater. I mean, I want to say that Walker Zimmerman was the only player that started that was tied to a Major League Soccer club. And you're now getting to the points where you're staring at Cruton as a part of this team.
Yep.
It's Cruton, Paul. And you're getting the dual nationals coming over. You're winning the dual national battle with all the other clubs that are trying to do the same thing in this hemisphere. So you're winning the Cruton battle, and you're doing it with international players. And I went through all of the ages of the Mexico roster, and 1/3 of the Canada roster right now is over the age of 28, and obviously is only going to get older. And
well, it's going to get younger because Atiba Hutchinson, who's 80 years old, is retiring. So there's that.
Yes, yeah. So,
that'll bring down the average, but for a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, you're with Canada, you do have the younger players that are going to be a part of the cycle. Dane St. Clair backing up Borjan, et cetera. But you wonder where that next wave is going to come from.
Yep.
Mexico is the same way. It's like you have that star power, but you don't have a depth behind Memo Ochoa, who's also 75 years old, or other positions. And you wonder where those 18, 19, 20-year-old players are going to come from in Mexico. Mexico doesn't believe, I don't think, in playing younger players as a part of their growth pattern.
Well, John, neither of those teams qualified for the U20 World Cup. Neither of them made it past the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF U20 championships. Neither Canada nor Mexico did that. Now, granted, youth tournaments are not exactly the best benchmark or litmus test, I should say, for are you going to be good at the senior level. But in CONCACAF specifically, and I've said this time and time again, if you're the US, your goal is to qualify for the U20 World Cup every time you go out there. Because you should be able to still win or do well in these tournaments in CONCACAF. The World Cup is a different story. Obviously, the U20s, I thought they performed very well. They were just unlucky to lose to the best team in the tournament, Uruguay. Mm-hmm. But Mexico and Canada, especially Canada, hasn't truly shown that they are able to, that they haven't shown that they're a level ahead at the youth level. They haven't performed well at the youth competitions. US and Mexico are still pretty dominant at those. I think Mexico had a fluke at the U20 World Cup or U20 CONCACAF championships last year, but Canada really does have to focus on how do they build the next generation of players, because Larea is not old, but aging out. He maybe has a cycle left, so I'm with you. It's what happens after the 2026 cycle. And this is where I think I appreciated John Herdman for deflecting last night in his post-game presser, because I don't think it would have been good to fully rail against the players last night, because I don't think Canada played poorly necessarily. I think that we're just the best team in the region and acted like it.
Right.
But the money has to be invested from Canada Soccer to bolster these clubs, to allow them to create actual professional academies. You have the Canadian Premier League, which I'm not going to comment on the actual quality of the league, but you have teams in large urban areas: Edmonton, Calgary, Hamilton, Winnipeg. You've got a second team in BC. You've got a team out on the Atlantic provinces. So you have teams that should be able to reach the main areas of soccer players in your country.
Right.
And you have to figure out a way to get those clubs to develop players to, like I said, to be professional ready by 17, 18, 19 years old, because it can't just be Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. You can't have just three, really only one, let's be real honest, with Toronto producing good talent.
I mean, it's looking a challenge for different reasons for the other clubs, for the other national teams currently in CONCACAF as you're heading into a World Cup cycle. And the question was posed. I think it was Michael Valverde this morning. Who could be that team that could come from lane 8 and come in and be a part of the process and challenge the top 3?
Well, I mean, obviously you had Panama there this time around. I still think Costa Rica has a lot to offer. They are very, very young. They kind of are in that weird bridge generation as well. They had the 2014, 10, 14, and 18 teams, right? Very good, very frustrating to play against, all those things. And those guys eventually, you can't play forever. And they have some really good young talent, Costa Rica does. It's just they're not quite there yet. So I still think Costa Rica's up there, but Panama really impressed this Nations League. I thought that, it's still just very clear that they're not at the level of Canada or Mexico. I mean, that played out in both matches. So I'm not quite sure, John, but I still think that when you're looking at the cycle specifically, if you're a CONCACAF team, you have to go, oh man, we got a chance here, because you're getting extra spots at the World Cup, not just because you have USA, Canada, Mexico qualifying automatically, but also because there's just more spots for CONCACAF. So Panama, Costa Rica, they should be good. I'm really curious to see what Trinidad and Tobago does at this Gold Cup, because they've been down for a couple of cycles, and they were a club that had a very good history. I'm not sure they're there yet. I don't know if there are any other island nations there. I know we really liked the Curacao idea for a while, and I just don't know if they're able to keep up. So is it another Central American team? Is it Nicaragua finally maybe making a step? Is it, El Salvador taking the momentum that Hugo Perez has built and creating a fully functioning team throughout the entire qualifying cycle? I'm looking more at the Central American countries than I can at the Caribbean countries, because I just don't see how they're progressing. Maybe it's Jamaica, I don't know, but I'm looking more at what does El Salvador do? What does Nicaragua do? What does even Guatemala do? Those are the countries I would be looking at to see who's coming from the outside to make a run.
Jarrett, go for it.
It's funny you talk about Costa Rica, and it feels like Costa Rica is doing the thing. And look, there are growing pains when you go young, but it's doing the thing Mexico should have done. Because look at Mexico's roster. Just bite the bullet. Right now, the U.S. is in a hardcore, prime growth phase where they have an obscene amount of young talent, but not too young enough to cause problems for the next cycle, maybe 2 cycles, maybe 3 cycles. It feels like something Mexico should have done for sure. And just bite the bullet and just, get the kids in there, see what they've got, see what you have. Because right now, what you have isn't working. You're just dragging this corpse on. And we see this in other sports with teams of just dragging this body through the streets when you should just bite the bullet and just figure out what you have. Don't be the Hawks of the mid-2000s, please.
Yes.
Well, and you get a good point, though, Jarrett, because I think if you're Mexico, and look, I'm not even trying to slander Memo Ochoa, because he's been very good for a long time and has certainly gotten his wins over the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
But do you really want to keep him around through 2026? I don't know if he's your guy. Do you start looking at younger goalkeepers? I definitely think you need to start looking at. You got to find someone in that midfield, because their midfield was. I mean, we ran through them on Thursday through that midfield.
Yeah, like it was the Michigan banner at the start of a game every game.
It was no, but seriously, it was bad. It was. That was the other thing that stuck out to me last night too. And I heard this coming up through, and granted, Canadian fans have talked a lot. I'll still give that they have the best player in CONCACAF with Alphonso Davies. I think that is still true. I don't know how true it is, but it's still, I'll give him that. But, I heard a lot of stuff about, Eustachio, he's the best midfielder in CONCACAF.
Okay.
No. Because he got bossed by Brendan Aronson, Gio Reyna, Yunus Musa. Yunus had a hell of a 2 games. I'll tell you, I mean, that man was insane. So I'm with, I don't know what Mexico does, because clearly they think that the talent they have is okay enough. It hasn't been. It wasn't during the World Cup qualifying cycle. It's even worse now. But I don't know which youth talent they go to, because they haven't been great at the youth level for the past couple cycles as well.
And to your point, I mean, you're also dealing with the fact that as for Canada, look, you had those problems yesterday with the U.S. There was no Serginho Dest or Weston McKennie to be seen on the field.
Yo, but Joe Scally absolutely locked down Alphonso Davies and Brendan Aronson. He helped a lot, but Joe locked him down to the point where they had to switch him multiple times throughout the game. So that was when that happened, I think, and maybe it was planned, I don't know, but the fact that you had to switch them to go to Anthony Robinson, who is fast and can keep up with him for the most part, it's like that's your game plan.
I mean, you're getting to the point now where you have such a depth of options. We're going to see, who earns those minutes and who can consistently earn those minutes for this team, because my God, you got guys all over the place who are going to be demanding minutes, but there are only 11 spots on the field.
But that's good, though. Yep. You like competition, don't you?
You do.
Well, and that's kind of the Gio Reyna discussion has come up a lot recently, and obviously that I don't want to talk about this, John, but we're going to gloss over it for a second. Now that Berhalter is being reinstated as coach, obviously people want to go back to the World Cup and go, well, see, he should have played Gio Reyna. And I think we all understand that Gio was not at actual 100% health, even though he as a player absolutely thought he was. It was very clear that he probably wasn't truly 100%. His numbers and minutes at Dortmund before the World Cup kind of proved that as well. The fact of the matter is, throughout qualifying, the team played best with the Adams, McKennie, Musa midfield. And that's great. You do get a chance now, as you hit a new cycle, to play with new things. Obviously, Tyler Adams wasn't available this time, so you had to try something else. Musa was a very adequate backup to Tyler Adams. I think that he, in my opinion, proved that he is the second choice as that defensive midfielder. But Gio played very well in both games, obviously man of the match last night. To your point, that is a good problem to have, because at best it means, hey, you know what? Actually, this game is going to be a little bit more like we're chasing it a little bit. We're going to need to have some defensive grit in there. Gio might not be your guy. Or you have a game like last night where, especially in that first half, we knew we were going to have a lot of more possession. Gio's perfect for that. Gio is perfect when we have a game that we're going to dominate possession, because he not only finds good passes, but he makes things happen on his own. And that's like having options. It's not about who starts, because that starting is not a end all be all. Oh, he's your starter. Well, yeah, for this game.
It's situational. It's
right. It's not your goalkeeper. I mean, your number one is Matt Turner. We don't need to change that. But even you look at the center backs, and you have Chris Richards and Miles Robinson, who were phenomenal against Mexico. Walker Zimmerman put in a great performance last night. You still have guys like CCV, who is injured. You still have Tim Ream. It's not about who is the best 11 all the time. It's about who's the best 11 for the opponent you're about to play. And the fact that we actually have the tools to adjust to that is incredible.
John Arnold, Canada Soccer has announced their Gold Cup squad. John Arnold's instant analysis, generally younger than the Nations League team, but has 16 of the 23 players on that roster back for the rest of the summer. Davies, David Buchanan, Laren, Kone, and Johnston all getting rest or doing club stuff. So it is Borjan, McGill, St. Clair, and Net. Adekubi, Bombito, Broguiar, Kennedy, Larea, Zach McGraw gets a call-up from Portland, Kamal Miller, Vittoria, Zator, midfield of Ali Ahmed, Eustachio, Laturi, Osorio, and Wotherspoon. In the attack, it's Brim, Cavallini, Hoylett, Miller, Russell Rowe, and Jacob Schaffelberg. So that's your Canada roster for Gold Cup.
Well, John, I think we'll have another, speaking of rosters, I'm sure we'll have a conversation this week about the Women's World Cup roster.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Australia, I believe Norway put theirs out today. So that'll come up soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a good test for Canada as well, because they're in the same boat that the US is, and the fact that we're not going to be able to bring our best for obvious reasons. Our best players are European based, and they need to go take their time off. So I'm interested to see how Canada can, maybe this is a good opportunity for them to get some of the not as talented or experienced players some minutes, because I do think they're in the best position right now to be the second best team truly in CONCACAF. But they have to seize the opportunity, because if they don't, Mexico will be there.
Mm-hmm. And Jarrett, I know looking at the attack, the last two names on the list, Jason Russell Rowe and Jacob Schaffelberg. Very, very interesting for the Gold Cup.
And man, look, if you're going to, as we have seen just north of us up in Tennessee, if you were going to play on the counter, Jacob Schaffelberg is a nice piece to have to ask to make an 80-yard sprint against the tired defense. And I want to see how Schaffelberg continues to grow and develop, because I've liked him, but I want to see what else he's got in what else has he got to contribute. But man, it's a young squad. Should be fun. Should be. It's a Gold Cup. It's probably going to be stupid at some point in all the beautiful ways that we love. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like enjoying it and rolling with it, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Here's my question, Jarrett. Sorry, I have a question for I guess John and Jarrett. But we've won Nations League. We won Nations League. Won it like very solidly. Like, there is no doubt this wasn't a fluke. We didn't get lucky. It wasn't even the Mexico game from 2 years ago where it was 3-2 because crazy shenanigans from the referee. We dominated both matches. Do we have to win Gold Cup to still claim that we're the best team in CONCACAF?
I think it depends on can I qualify it based on the showing? How do you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, how do you, like, if you don't win it, like, let's say you lose in like the semifinal or the final, and you just catch someone on the wrong damn day. Because if that sort of thing happens, yeah, I think you'd still have a strong claim to it, you know?
I think if you make the final with this roster, it's a pretty done deal from my perspective.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean. Like, you just take care of business, and even if you don't have to win it, but you also can't go out there and just absolutely spit the bit.
Yeah. No, that's how I'm locked into it. I'm looking at, but the way that I'm phrasing it is, why would you not think of yourself as the number one contender to win Gold Cup anyway? We
got BJ Callahan at the wheel. What are you talking about?
So then it's like
Edward Giron of U.S. Soccer.
Seriously, we got the defensive line coach from Ole Miss with his play call sheet in the front of his pants and a headset around his neck, calling plays out there for set pieces. Does
that make Gio Reyna Joe Burrow?
Maybe Pulisic is Joe Burrow.
Yeah, because was Joe Burrow ever a blonde?
No.
I could see Pulisic lighting up a cigar after a victory without any question.
I could see Gio doing it as well, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if Gio's the Joe Burrow, but I don't know. We need to work on this. But he's like the running joke is just that BJ Callahan is either linebackers or defensive line coach from pick an SEC school here, and he fits the mold. Or a wrestling coach. I think we've decided maybe he looks more like a wrestling coach with the polo tucked into the pants.
It's also the square jaw. Like, he's just built like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That man could squat a Volkswagen Beetle from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would have absolutely no fear in doing it. Last thoughts about Nations League as we head into Gold Cup, Bart Keeler.
We're the best team in CONCACAF. I think it's been pretty clear that this was the trajectory we were on since qualifying ended. We had the best showing at the World Cup. We had the best. I mean, really, even in the 2 Nations League games in March, we looked fantastic. These matches were proof positive that we are ascending and still ascending, in my opinion, at the summit of CONCACAF. And I am very excited for what this team is going to do for the next cycle, because we'll talk about the coach after this Gold Cup when he actually starts taking over and doing things. But yeah, I think there are things that he's going to have to change about his own personal way that he approaches the game and how he approaches managing the team. But these players are special. They really are. All of them. Every player who took that field last night made us better when they walked on the field. Even Johnny, even Luca, who didn't have a great game, but they contributed to us being able to prove we're the most dominant team in the region.
Mm-hmm. Last thoughts, Jarrett Smith.
I don't disagree. I mean, right now you're the best team in the region. Go have fun at the Gold Cup. This should be a fun Gold Cup. This should not be a pressure-laden Gold Cup. And I mean that in the sense, there's always pressure to win, but this isn't like oh God, we have to have a decent showing so we don't like slip down the totem pole. Are we behind Costa Rica like it's been in years past? This should just be a fun Gold Cup, and it should be fun to watch, and it should be fun to enjoy. And yeah, I mean, it feels so. I'm not stressed out about it. Like, I'm not stressed out about how they'll perform, about what each performance means for where they sit in CONCACAF's hierarchy. Like, all that's on Mexico right now. That's a Mexico problem, not a me problem.
Yep.
It's nice for the other teams to have problems and not us.
Yes.
It's beautiful to the other teams to have problems and not you. That's the best situation to be in as a sports fan.
Yeah. Watch everybody else's Rome burn while you're kind of kicking back and sitting there going, "Ooh, marshmallows."
Basically.
Ricky is asking, does this mean that Gio is Johnny Football in this case?
Oh, Jesus, no. Gio's, man, I'm not putting that on Gio. Look, Gio's parents getting completely out of pocket is different than than like Johnny Football just being crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not putting.
I mean, Gio's performing at the professional level, so I think that makes him very different than Johnny Football.
I thought you were.
Who's the Cleveland of CONCACAF then?
Oh goodness,
Canada.
They
ain't won a trophy in 23 years.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh God, but they'll tell you about it. And
that's true.
Cleveland would absolutely try and start a fight with Croatia too.
Oh, absolutely they would.
Cleveland fights with itself. Like, let's be real honest. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Herdman would pick a fight with anybody given the chance.
Yeah, because again, at the end of the day, John Herdman just kind of rolled out there and was like, "What if we just fought? What if we just fought Croatia? We just decided we're gonna trash talk Croatia."
Well, see now, and this would be if you had Coca and Herdman going at it, where they feel like they have no choice and they just end up fighting each other. I mean, it's like, okay, who can come up with the knockdown drag out first, and how many are left after all the red cards are shown? It's like 7v7, like the Open Cup game with Atlanta and Colorado, like one of those kind of things. With with Herdman and Coca, if you had Canada going up against Mexico with A+ rosters, that'd be kind of cute. I think that'd be an enjoyable experience for television.
Speaking of which, John, there's some stuff going on in the chat between Emilio and Kafka about Nations League and Gold Cup kind of being stacked back to back.
Yeah.
So Nations League and Gold Cup, they were never meant to be during the same summer. We had this thing called a global pandemic that forced the delay. Yeah, I don't know. It's been too long. The COVID I caught during it made me forget. The Nations League was supposed to be actually, I think, in November when they first started it, and then it got pushed to March, and then they finally pushed it to June of 2021. So that was the reason why we had to do the 2 back-to-back tournaments in the 2021 summer. Then FIFA decided to sell its soul to oil money, and we had to play a World Cup in November.
Wait, no. ...
Yeah. So that pushed back the calendar a little bit as well. So the next Nations League cycle technically starts September, October. The U.S. won't enter until November when we go to the quarterfinals. If we win that quarterfinal tie against whoever qualifies, we automatically qualify for the Copa America next summer, and we qualify for the finals in March of 2020. What's next year? 2024.
Yes.
So that is how this is working now. So I don't know how that's going to stay in perpetuity because CONCACAF changes things monthly, I think. But that is what will happen next time. So next year in 2024, we'll have a Nations League final in March. Atlanta bid for it, and we'll have the Copa America that summer. Atlanta also apparently going to bid for that. So that is, luckily, we won't have these two issues. And again, I think if you do that, and because you only have the 2 games in one window, you're gonna get the best of the best. Your A team coming. So that's why in September we have friendlies. That's why in October we have friendlies with Germany and Ghana, because CONCACAF obviously likes to prefer the best teams in the region to make sure that they do get to qualify for the important tournaments. So Canada, Mexico, Panama, USA, we're sliding into the those quarterfinal matchups in November. Those winners play the final in March.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, COVID affected that, and then a Winter World Cup affected it.
Yeah. So, and Tafka's wondering what precisely qualifies for Copa. It's called money and expanding the tournament.
Yeah. What qualifies us for Copa? Like to play in a Copa America? Yeah. We said, do you want to make a shit ton of money?
Uh-huh.
Again,
there's the explicit rating for today.
Yeah. Sorry. That's not an explicit rating. That's a unit of measurement, John.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is metric in some countries.
But what actually qualifies us for the tournament is those Nations League performances. Like I said, in November, it'll be a quarterfinals. You'll have 4 matchups of, I think they're 2-legged ties. The winners of those 4 ties qualify directly to Copa America. The losers play in another playoff round to get the next 2. So we get 6 total teams, CONCACAF does, in Copa America, because obviously CONMEBOL only has 10. So we get 16 teams. So the U.S. should qualify with no problem. Mexico luckily has a couple of chances after they screw it up. So, good for them.
Yes. So that is Monday that went into extra time. Not a surprise, considering all the
what didn't go into extra time, John? Any of these U.S. Nations League games, we dominated.
So Bart has, I'm sure, plenty of soccer for USPOD stuff coming.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do 2 separate episodes about all the news that's come out recently.
All right, so those will be up on. Those will be up on.
Just cutting promos for the foreseeable future.
Oh, absolutely.
As he should.
I feel like we need to have like an episode on like the flaws of Berhalter, the positives of Berhalter, why U.S. soccer took 87 years to rehire, but like all of these could be hour-long episodes in their own right. On top of celebrating the fact we won Nations League.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of it. Bart's coming up with a telenovela soon here on the network with all of the different episodes that will be attached to all of the activity from Nations League and Gold Cup. So yeah, there's nothing going on for Bart these days. And so I'm guessing that what are we anticipating this week from national teams? Anything, Bart? Other than getting ready for Gold Cup?
Oh, that's about it. Obviously, the U.S. starts its Gold Cup campaign on Saturday against Jamaica. That's a 9:30 kick.
Okay.
If you want to come watch it, Fido, you are more than welcome to.
Go. There's your plug.
As you know, the Atlanta United plays 7:30 that day. I say this. My very good I don't know if you're aware, but All Stripes is doing a watch party for that. Their Pride watch party on Saturday at Coda at Georgia Tech. So you can go watch the Atlanta United game there, and then head over to Fido after for the U.S. team game. I have been told by my friend Tanya Biggerwood that there will be an appearance by Tanya at the drag performance for the All Stripes charity event. So make sure you go out there and have a great fun. It was a lot of fun last year, and hopefully we do it again. So that's the lineup this week. Obviously, we have Atlanta United playing on Wednesday. We're missing Miles Robinson for forever because he wants to play in the World Cup. Good for him.
Back-to-back tournaments, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's plenty to play with. But Bart, as Bart always knows, since he's a golden ticket holder, literally he can DM me. It's like, I want to come in. And that's kind of like what happened this morning. So anytime anything happens, Bart obviously just parachute in when we don't have any other guests and things like that. And so we'll be back.
Well, thank you, John.
Oh, yeah. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow, where hopefully we can get through. I feel like, Jarrett, the show, we need to have that sign behind me or behind you on a separate shoulder. Number of consecutive shows where we haven't had Stupidity Down Here, and we just roll it back over to 0 and start over again. And have that kind of stuff. But there's news, so there's plenty of stuff going on. We'll talk about it again tomorrow morning, 9:05, and we'll get into all that other kind of stuff there. Wednesday is normal. Dylan Butler hopefully joining us at 10. Bart, are you joining at 10:30 Wednesday?
To be determined.
Because he might have traded his Wednesday slot for the Monday.
I have a meeting at like 10:15. That's not supposed to take long. So
okay.
we'll see. To be determined.
Okay.
Might have to be a little late as well.
Or you could show up in hour number 1, and that way it doesn't interfere.
That we'll have to see how that works. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then Thursday is normal, and then Friday will be from New Jersey, but it's pretty much a normal rundown. And we'll have all the shows in the network all week long, all the leagues we cover, all the stuff going on, all the stuff you need to know. And it's going to be a very, very busy week. Midweek whip around on Wednesday, and then other stuff on Friday. So for Bart, who is hanging out with us until the bitter end today, and for Jarrett, I'm just John. Played safe, everybody. We'll do it again. And since it's the end of the show, mucho plati, I'll play it safe. It means we get to do this. Back tomorrow morning, 9:05.